Star Trek. Voyager proved how to reform DS9's enemies. Star Trek. Voyager often gets praised for its high-concept sci-fi, resilient captain, and bold Delta Quadrant adventures. But one of its quietest, most subversive triumphs lies in how it took several of Deep Space Nine's most notorious antagonists and reimagined them as fully rounded, even sympathetic characters. Where DS9 delved into the moral gray of wartime politics and espionage, Voyager became a story of redemption, using isolation, second chances, and shared goals to show how enemies could become allies, or even heroes. From Byron enemy to Starfleet ally, Seska and the Maquis, DS9 introduced the Maquis as a radical, often violent group of Federation citizens who turned against the peace treaty with Cardassia. They were rebels in every sense, angry, vengeful, and morally compromised. While DS9 explored the political fallout of the Maquis, Voyager took their narrative in a new direction. Stranded in the Delta Quadrant with no way home, the Starfleet and Maquis crews were forced to merge aboard the USS Voyager. It was a social experiment unlike anything seen before in Star Trek. The early friction, especially between Janeway and Chakotay, reflected DS9's portrayal of the Maquis as unpredictable and dangerous. But as the series progressed, Voyager reframed the Maquis not as enemies, but as people shaped by conflict who could evolve when given purpose and leadership. B'Elanna Torres, a half-Klingon Maquis engineer with a violent temper, transformed into one of Voyager's most beloved characters. She brought passion and ingenuity to the crew and overcame her trauma through relationships, especially with Tom Paris. Unlike DS9, which often left Maquis characters like Eddington as tragic or bitter, Voyager used B'Elanna to show growth was possible, even inevitable, if people were given the right environment. Even Chakotay, once a commander of a rebel cell, became a symbol of harmony. His spiritual, reflective nature contrasted with his Maquis past, showing how adaptability could turn enemies of the Federation into its best defenders. The Borg, from terrifying collective to rehabilitated individuals, DS9 never featured the Borg heavily, probably because TNG had made them too powerful and too alien to truly integrate into a serialized narrative. But Voyager changed that by being bold enough to delve into the collective, to live among them, and most daringly, to reform them. 7 of 9 was the ultimate test case. Assimilated as a child, 7 was a Borg drone when Janeway severed her from the collective. Voyager didn't just save her body, it began the long, difficult process of restoring her humanity. No longer a faceless enemy, the Borg became a vehicle for a powerful story about trauma, identity, and recovery. In DS9, enemies like the Jem'Hadar or the Cardassians were tragic, but often locked into their roles by culture and war. Voyager used 7 to say something radically hopeful, that even the most alien enemy could change. That free will, mentorship, and a supportive community could do what brute force could not. 7's journey was never easy. She struggled with emotion, with ethics, and with understanding humanity. But by the time Voyager ended, she had become not just reformed, but essential to the crew. Her intellect and strength saved lives, but her evolution touched hearts. The Hirogen, the Kazan, and the Delta Quadrant's wildcards, Voyager also encountered plenty of new foes, and some of them were modeled on DS9's darker themes. The Hirogen, for example, were a nomadic, violent hunter race with a disturbing culture centered around domination and survival, reminiscent of the Jem'Hadar. At first, they seemed like monsters, but Voyager peeled back the layers and offered them something more, a chance to evolve. In The Killing Game, Janeway negotiates peace through cultural exchange. Instead of killing for sport, the Hirogen begin to experiment with holographic hunting grounds, a pivot that plants the seed of future reform. Even the Kazan, often seen as Voyager's weakest villains, represent a kind of developmental arc. Originally a chaotic, tribal force that echoed the fractured nature of the Byron-Cardassian conflict in DS9, the Kazan eventually revealed deeper social inequalities and internal struggles. While Voyager never fully redeemed them, the show attempted to understand them, suggesting that conflict was born from desperation and division, not inherent evil. A star feed of second chances, what Voyager proved, time and again, is that enemies don't have to remain enemies. Stripping away the grand galactic stage of DS9 and placing everyone in survival mode forced enemies to confront one another as individuals, not ideologies. Janeway's inclusive leadership became a crucible for change. She extended the